Welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. Live for the next half hour, join us as we provide you with all the scores, news, and updates to everything Franklin County sports. And now, here's your host, Bobby C.
Hello and welcome to the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. I'm Bobby C. I want to welcome you here today. Well, unfortunately, the winter season is now officially over, and that means that we're going to be looking forward to spring sports. And with that said, the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report will be taking our 5-week hiatus as we get ready for the kids to start practicing, getting out on the field to be able to do softball and baseball. And we also have, of course, track and field as well. So the kids are starting to get ready for the spring season. And as we record this show here today on a Tuesday, it is gorgeous out. Temperatures in the mid-60s on a beautiful Tuesday. And what we're going to do is we're going to wind down with all the information that happened with our local teams who are able to be in the state tournament for boys and girls basketball. And we have an update on the tournament for the Greenfield boys hockey team. Want to say a big thank you to Franklin First Federal Credit Union. Yep, franklinfirst.org. Also by Manny's TV and Appliance, River Street in Greenfield, Route 9 in Hadley. And also by Lisa Alber of Alber Hearing Services, our local audiologist, located at 33 Riddell Street in Greenfield, alberhearing.com. Also, I just want to say a big congratulations goes out to our producer, John Meisner, who just picked up a nice gig over at TV 22. So he's going to be able to continue doing something that he likes to do in this kind of business. So I want to say a big congratulations to our producer, Johnny Meisner, for being able to have the opportunity to get his foot in the door down at 22 over in Chicopee. And that's where he will be. Officially, they are considered a Chicopee residence, not Springfield, even though we all think of 22 News as Springfield. So congratulations to John. And while I'm throwing out a congratulations, I want to say a big thank you to our wonderful executive producer and my friend, Philippe Simone. Thank you very much for everything you've done for us during the beginning of this year and getting us through our nice part of the winter season. And we're very fortunate to be able to record many shows. There was shows where we missed, but we're all glad that we can get the thank yous in before we go on to our 5-week hiatus. Well, let's get right into it. Here on the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report, want to let you know that the Greenfield boys, they were in the state tournament and they had to travel to Salem Academy Charter School. And unfortunately, trailing by 18 points entering the fourth quarter, the Greenfield Greenway boys, who were, by the way, the number 17 seed in Salem Academy Charter School, the number 16 seed in the state in Division 5, I want to let you know that it turned out to be a really good ending. Greenfield did a nice job. They came back and they ended up losing in the end 71-64, only losing by 7 after being down 18. Greenfield got within 2 points in the final minute, but the guys from Salem Academy made their free throws down the line, and that's exactly what they needed to do. They needed to make their free throws, and that's why they picked up the 7-point win. Well, when you talk to Angelo Thomas, he'll tell you pretty much straight up about how this team has been all year long. He said, we've had ups, we've had downs. We've beat good teams, we've lost to bad teams. We come focused some games we don't come focused at all. But that is how it has been for the Greenfield boys basketball team this year. The good news is that they have a bright future. They have some really good players that are going to be able to help this basketball program to make them even better. Now, they are going to lose David Carey, their senior. He ended up having 19 points in that game. John Breer, one of the younger guys on the team, he ended up having 12 points and pulled down 16 rebounds. He is going to be one of the big forces down low in the future for Greenfield basketball. Also, Caleb Murray, one of the younger guys that's been able to hold the point and be the point guard for the team. He ended up with 10 points in that game. And then Brendan Driscoll, another senior who will be leaving the team, he ended up with 10 points in the loss. So David Carey, Brendan Driscoll, they are graduating, so they're all done with high school basketball. And then we're looking forward to the future of Greenfield with John Breer, Caleb Murray, and all that JV team that only lost one game this past season, going 19-1, all those kids will be coming up to play for Angelo Thomas. And unfortunately, with that loss to Salem Academy, the Greenfield High School basketball season did come to an end last week. Well, another team that had to take on a pretty strong team was Frontier, as the Frontier boys ended up having an opportunity to be able to host a first-round game, as the number 13 ranked Red Hawks ended up getting beat by the number 20 seed, West Bridgewater High School. Final score was 79-51. It really was a tough one for Frontier at home. But if you talk to Coach Ben Barshevsky, he'll tell you that you got to credit West Bridgewater because they are a good team. They never let us feel comfortable all night long in the game that they came and played in our gym. We struggled getting into our sets, we weren't able to execute, and unfortunately, we paid the price as we ended up getting beat. Now, while the Wildcats' size played a big role in the win, it was really their execution that was the deciding factor. And really, if you score 79 points, it has to be execution. And if you can play defense and hold the other team to 51, that means you pretty much did everything you needed to do to win on the road, and that's exactly what happened. Now, while it wasn't a very good ending for the Frontier Red Hawks this year for their basketball program, I will tell you, though, that the outcome of this game surely didn't show what they did during the year, because they did have a fine season. And it's going to be a little bit of a tough road for Frontier basketball because they had 9 seniors that they graduated this year. So they are pretty much going to have to restart another new group to be able to build back up to where they were this past year. Well, if you end up getting a number 13 seed in the state in Division 4, then I think that you had a successful season. So big congratulations goes out to Frontier on a successful year. Unfortunately, they went down last week to West Bridgewater High School. Well, the Pioneer boys basketball team, they ended up having an opportunity to play 2 games. They did really well. And you know, their story is something that I think is fun to share here on our show here today. You know, if you think about Pioneer and you look at what happened to Pioneer this year, you say to yourself, how did they make the playoffs? They had so many injuries. They had COVID that went through the school twice. They had a game stretch, a week stretch, where they had 3 games in 1 week against 3 of the top teams in their division with hardly any personnel. 6 suited players. Let me say that again. 6 suited players. Well, on their first playoff game, they were home against Prospect Hill of Cambridge, and they ended up winning that game 55-37. It's an example of why defense is so important in high school basketball. And that's the one thing that Coach Scotty Thayer does preach. He preaches defense. And that's exactly what they did a week ago Friday when they ended up knocking off Prospect Hill of Cambridge, holding them to only 37 points. What they did is they did everything that they could do possibly to be able to stronghold this team from putting the ball in the basket. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, you think about it, in high school basketball, if you hold a team to 37 points, you're usually going to win. But here's the thing. Their offense was a little off, but I think it was because of the exertion that they put in to play in defense that they had tired legs by being so well on the defensive end. They ended up with 55 points, and if you really think about it technically, they ended up winning by 18 points, and that is a big margin of victory. The Pioneer Panthers, with that win, they ended up punching their ticket, and they ended up being able to advance to take on the number 2 seed in Division 5, Bay State Academy, and we'll get to that game in just a moment. But in that game against Prospect Hill of Cambridge, Pioneer was leading at halftime 30-16. Jalen McGraw, he ended up with 14 points and 5 rebounds. Josh Wood had 13 points, also with 5 rebounds. Jaden Fox, he ended up getting in double figures with 10, followed by Braden Thayer with 9, Jared Hubbard with 6, and Hubbard also had 5 assists in that game as well. So Pioneer won their first game of the state tournament, and of course they would move on to game number 2 against the number 2 seed, Bay State Academy. And let's get right into that. Well, looking for that road upset on a snowy day, which was a week ago Wednesday. We ended up with a big snowy day. We were only supposed to get an inch of snow, and we ended up with 4 or 5 inches of snow. Well, the boys from Pioneer traveled down to Sci Tech in Springfield to take on Bay State Academy, the number 2 seed in Division 5. Well, they were leading at halftime. The Panthers were really doing a great job. Honestly, it's sort of sad because they were pretty much leading for a lot of this game. They lost this game in the 4th quarter. Think about this. You're leading at halftime. You're leading right through most of the 3rd quarter. Honestly, the last 3 minutes of the 3rd quarter and the final quarter, so that would be the last 11 minutes of the game, Bay State Academy went on a tear, and they couldn't miss anything. I was at that game. I ended up doing that game live on the radio, so I know exactly what happened in this one. And Bay State Academy picked up the 81-63 victory. Let me tell you something. It looked bad by giving you that score, didn't it? They lost by 18. Well, guess what? This team from Bay State Academy, everything they threw up went in. Everything. Including their leading scorer. He had 4 3-pointers in a row on only 1 possession that Pioneer scored a deuce. So think about this. That kid alone, just in 4 trips down the court, scores 12 points, and Pioneer only scored 2. So they just made up 10 points just on 4 trips down the court, with the leading scorer of Bay State Academy making those 4 threes in a row. Well, when all was said and done, Pioneer got eliminated from the Division 5 state tournament. Got to give credit where credit's due. They were the best, and I will say this wholeheartedly, they were the best 11-11 team that I saw this year in high school basketball, and I'm going to tell you this, they were the best 11-11 team in the state of Massachusetts. That says something about Pioneer with everything that went wrong this year. Pioneer, they got a very bright future though, folks. They really do. I mean, Braden Thayer, he's coming back. You got Josh Wood. You got Alex McClelland. You got Gavin Gamel. You got Kurt Redeker. These are all guys who are going to make this team pretty special. And they have many years together. Why? Because these guys are freshmen and sophomores. So they still got plenty of time to be able to shine up there in Northfield and be able to shine on the court at Messer Gymnasium. Jaden Fox, got to give credit to that senior, man. He ended up with 19 points in his final game for Pioneer. Also, Jared Hubbard, the senior, had a great game too. He ended up with 14 points. Senior Jalen McGraw, who suffered injuries all season long, he still ended up with 8 points. Other seniors that are going to be leaving the program, there's 5 total, include Sean Allen and also Ryan Potter. They were the 5 seniors for Pioneer. These new younger guys are going to be coming up with the JV program that's already gotten itself going here, and it's going to be a bright future for Pioneer. They ended up bowing out of the tournament, but they were able to play 2 games, and really, everything went well, and as the old saying says, the basketball bounced the right way for Bay State Academy in picking up that 18-point win and being able to pretty much shoot 84% in the 4th quarter from the field. That is unbelievable. Well, we get to the girls, and how exciting it was for us to be able to say that the girls from Turners Falls, who ended up winning a league championship, the first one that they've won in a long, long time, ended up being able to host opportunities for 2 games over there at Turners Falls High School. In their first game, the 13-seeded Turners Falls girls ended up hosting the number 52-seeded team in their division. That's right. There were 52 teams in this one division in girls basketball, and I must tell you that they had to drive all the way from Plymouth to come to Turners Falls. The name of the school is called Rising Tide. And boy, they really struggled against Turners as Turners picked up a 63-17 win. You know, when you talk to Coach Jim Cadron, he'll tell you that they pride themselves on defense, and I'll tell you, they've done it well all year long. And if you can hold a team to 17 points, you're playing good defense. Matter of fact, Turners Falls was winning at halftime in that game 33-2. 33-2 at halftime. Senior Emily Young, she's the only senior on the team. She is leaving. 14 points for her. Also, a very solid day defensively. Abby Holloway, she had 12. She is one of the stars that'll be coming back. Want you to know that she is a junior, so she'll be back for her senior year. And then they got some great talent coming up that is going to help them continue to grow. And I'm going to say this right now. Maddie Lamatanian had a great year this year. She is going to be a big force for her team. Lily Spira coming back. Morgan DeBias will be back. Steph Peterson will be back. Turners Falls girls basketball, losing just one senior in Emily Young, they have an opportunity to do what they did this past year, again, this next season coming up. What a great year that it was for them. And they picked up that first round win. Now they have to travel. Now they have to get the next game under their belt. Well, it was another opportunity for a home game, as the number 13 seeded Thunder end up hosting number 20 seeded St. Bernard's. And St. Bernard's really took Turners out of their game, and they ended up picking up the win on the road against the Thunder, 50-37. Now, St. Bernard's was leading by 5 points at halftime, and then they opened it up a little bit more in the second half. Now, the loss does end that successful season for the girls. The future, like I said, remains bright. And how about this? They won their first league championship for the first time in 39 years this year. They made Western Mass. They had the opportunity to be able to go through the Western Mass tournament. Unfortunately, they hit the number 1 seeded team in the state in Hoosick Valley, and they ended up losing in the semifinals of the Western Mass tournament. And look how far they got in states. They were able to host 2 games. Congratulations to the Turners Falls girls basketball team. What a successful season. Well, right across town is the Franco County Tech girls, and they had a nice playoff run too. And there is a team that also was going through a lot of things. Tell you, COVID hit a lot of schools here in our area, and also injuries to players. But let me tell you something. The Franco County Tech girls, they ended up having an opportunity to host their first game, a game that I was at as well. And let me tell you something. They did something that was really special for their program. They scored 24 points in the first quarter to be able to start their first playoff game of the state tournament. And then from there, it was all on cruise control, and they ended up posting a 53-40 win over North Brookfield. Now, North Brookfield had to travel and be able to take on the Tech school in their gym. And let me just tell you right now, it was a big win for the girls at the Tech school because they just came off winning their first ever basketball for girls, their small vote tournament for girls basketball in the state of Massachusetts. They ended up winning that tournament literally the weekend before they had their game, which was only 2 days later against North Brookfield. Not only that, but they had so many different people that were able to step it up. And let me tell you, they had a great year because of many different girls who really stepped up this season. You had Leah Chapman in that game, scoring 18 points. Hannah Gilbert with 16 points. Caitlin Trudeau with 10. Girls that were able to be huge contributors to this team were those three girls. Also, Kendra Campbell. You also have to remember that there were other girls that were big down low. Emily Merritt. Also, Emily Ryan. Those girls were a big help as well. The future is bright for the Franklin County Tech girls. That's right. I can tell you right now that Chapman, Gilbert, Trudeau, Campbell, all coming back next season. It's going to be great to be able to see what the girls at the Franklin County Tech School can do next year. Well, with that win, they have to travel to Palmer, as they will take on the number 12 seeded Palmer Panthers. And I got to tell you, it was a very hostile environment down there. Honestly, I honestly felt that the athletic director didn't do their job very well handling the crowd that night. There is supposed to be what we call good sportsmanship, right? Well, the sportsmanship was not good that night in Palmer. The 21st seeded Eagles, well, they traveled down there and they were only down by 1 point at halftime. But Palmer opened things up a little bit more in the second half and made a few extra plays and picked up the 45-37 win and won by 8. You know, the Franklin County Tech girls ended up this year 18-6. That is a very successful season. They had to be able to deal with injuries and deal with certain things that happened with the COVID that happened early in the year with this team. But really, at the end of the season, Coach Gamas couldn't be more happier than what they were able to bring to the table this season. By the way, I want to let you know that the Franklin County Tech's Hannah Gilbert and Kendra Campbell each had 13 in that loss. Emily Ryan, the senior, had 6 points and 10 rebounds. Leah Chapman, 3 points and 7 rebounds. And Caitlin Trudeau ended up with 2 points, 6 rebounds. But here's the big key right here, 6 steals in that game. She is a great defender. And if she's hot shooting, she gets it done on both ends of the court. So congratulations on a great season to our girls from the Franklin County Tech. Ended up winning the Small Voc tournament for the first time in school history and ended up 18-6. 2 games they were able to play in the state tournament. Well, the Frontier girls, they had a great year too. And let's talk about their great game that we had a chance to be able to be a part of. I enjoyed taking a trip down to East Hampton High School and enjoyed a great meeting between Frontier and East Hampton. And the Frontier girls picked up a close win, good enough. Final score was 49-45. It was the third meeting between these teams this year, and I will tell you that going into this, each team beat each other once. And you can see by the final score, these teams are pretty even. Final score again was 49-45. Frontier, the number 20 seed, traveled to the number 13 seed, East Hampton Eagles, and picked up the 4-point win. Must tell you though, Hannah Mackin, she ended up doing something very special down the stretch. Yep, with the game as close as it was, she knocked down 4 very important free throws at the end of the game, and that was the difference in the score as well. 49-45, 4-point difference. She makes those clutch free throws down the end and gives Frontier a chance to move on in the state tournament. You know, when you talk to Coach Dave Michon, he'll tell you straight up, bottom line is that their girls were good for East Hampton. And he even knew that it was going to come down to the wire on how things were going to roll. Well, Caitlin Mackin, Kylie LaFord, they ended up not having a great game. But other girls stepped it up, like Delaney Fifield, Molly Gates, Also, we talked about Hannah Mackin and Elena Mayes-Poland. She ended up having a great game too. Then they had to travel to Amesbury, and they were never in it against Amesbury as the number 4 seed in the state really kept Frontier at bay. Final score was 50-39. Kylie LaForest ended up with 14, Caitlin Mackin with 13, Delaney Fifield with 6. Great accomplishment for this girls, for them to be able to go and take on the number 4 seed and only lose by 11 in a state tournament. That says a lot about them, especially with this school being in Division 4. Great season by our girls at Frontier. All right, basketball's over. Those were our teams that were in for boys and girls hoop. Now, we wrap up our show here today talking about the hockey team. Yep, after picking up a Western Mass championship in Class B, the boys from Greenfield High School ended up going into the state tournament, and they went in as a very high seed. So they ended up taking on a team that also had a high seed in Gardner. Well, Greenfield hosted that game. That game was held over at the Collins Mullen Arena. Greenfield picked up the 3-0 win over Gardner. Josh Bordeaux, how about this? He stopped all 24 shots in that game and was a big part of the win. It was a big crowd over at the Collins Mullen Arena as they picked up their first state tournament win that they have under this new format, which is in Division 4. By the way, I want to let you know, folks, that Division 4 hockey in Massachusetts is like playing Division I basketball in college. That is how good hockey is in the Commonwealth. They have probably the best high schools in New England that are here in our state that get it done. You don't see this kind of stuff in Vermont that you see in Maine or New Hampshire that you see in Massachusetts. By the way, Greenfield, picking up that win, they got to move on, but they had to play the number 1 seed. It was number 32 seeded Greenfield versus number 1 seeded Norville. Norville, the number 1 seeded team located in Kingston, Mass., which is down near Plymouth. So down pretty much on the Cape. Well, they had a Saturday game, and they had to take that trip down, and boy, I'll tell you, Norville was a little worried about Greenfield in this one. Final score was only 4-0, Norville. And if you talk to Coach Adam Bouchard, he'll tell you straight up that Norville is a great team, and that his team played their hearts out. The student athletes gave everything they could. They just couldn't finish opportunities during the game to try to be able to get the puck in the net. But the bottom line is that that game stayed scoreless going into the last 15 minutes of the game. Think about this. You're the number 32 seed against the number 1 seed, and with 15 minutes left in the game, it's still 0-0. Well, Norville took advantage of opportunities, and they ended up picking up the win. And with that said, the Western Mass Class B champions ran out of gas against the number 1 seeded team. But I will say this, they had a wonderful season as well, another championship, and another great year for our locals. And I just want to say our winter season has come to an end. We are done with our winter season. Congratulations to the boys. And we also want to let you know we're on a 5-week hiatus. We'll be back in 5 weeks to be able to kick off the spring season right here on the Franklin County Varsity Sports Report. For John Meisner, Philippe Simone, I'm Bobby C. You have yourself a wonderful start to the spring, and please support our local athletes.